calling the meeting to order at 1:33 p.m. We can start with roll call. Okay, Amber, you want to? Nicole, one of you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Director McGarty,
Here.
Director Crane,
Present.
Director White,
Here.
Director LaRue, we have Director LaRue, okay, Director Navarez, Director Navarez, Director Robinson.
I am here.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a quorum then? Yes, okay.
Yes, we do.
So the next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Director Crane, would you like to lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Thank you. All right, consent items. Is there any discussion on our consent items? Does anyone want to pull an item? If no one has anything to pull, then I would entertain a motion to accept the consent items as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
What's that said so moved? You're not showing up on my screen right now.
That was Alfred White.
Thank you, Director.
Okay, Nicole, do you want to take a roll call vote, please?
Do we have a second on that motion?
This is Zach Robinson. I will second.
Thank you. All right, roll call vote. Director McGarty,
Yes.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Aye.
Director LaRue is absent, and Director Navarez is absent. Director Robinson?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you. So now we move on to action items. 4A, recommendation from the Proposal Review Ad Hoc Committee and possible action, including direction to staff to prepare an agreement with West Yost for administrative services. Who would like to report out from the ad hoc?
Zach Robinson. I'm just going to read a super brief statement to summarize what we did, and then if there's any questions, people can go from there.
That sounds good.
So Amber put together a request for proposal right at the end of last year based on the draft budget for our GSA. This request for proposal was publicized, and 2 proposals were received by the January deadline. The 4 members of the ad hoc committee reviewed each of the proposals independently and discussed our observations in a Zoom call 2 weeks ago. A quantitative summary of the ratings or score that each committee member assigned to each proposal is included in today's board packet. Each reviewer concluded that the proposal from West Yost was a better fit with the RFP, and it is the unanimous view of the ad hoc committee that West Yost received the contract, subject to any additional due diligence performed by the board.
Okay, does anyone have any comments from the board members? So I have a few questions that I would like to ask of staff. So in general, this looks like a good proposal. The people seem qualified. The budget is reasonable. we are conducting a study with GEI to look at the Mendocino County Water Agency. And my only concern is we have the opportunity perhaps to have the water agency take over this duty. And I'm just wondering if recognizing that technically we are a separate entity as a joint powers authority, so we don't have to work with the county, but there is some advantages in having county staff working closely with us in terms, especially when we get to grant proposals, because there'll be certain times where only the county can apply for grants, grant administration and so forth would be more or less in-house. So there's some advantages of having the synergies of Mendocino County managing the agency for us. And I just would like some feedback from other people as to what the thinking is to have someone else be an outside contractor of sorts. Amber, any thoughts?
Yeah, I can respond to that. I was wondering if there were any other comments from directors. In my opinion, the current staffing levels of the water agency, we just don't have the capacity or really the expertise to implement the GSP. We've sort of limped along over the past few years, and luckily, because of the grant we had and the contract with Larry Walker Associates, we heavily relied on them for their expertise in the GSP development, and even just GSA administration, really. And that contract and that grant are coming to an end, and I have real concerns about moving into this implementation phase without having some sort of contracted expertise and additional capacity for the implementation. We're looking at applying for implementation grants maybe this fall, and starting to having to do all our monitoring and data collection and possibly implementing projects. And in my opinion, I think we need somebody who has experience doing that. That being said, if it was the board's inclination to do so, we could not go with a 3-year contract. We could do a 1-year contract, which would give us some time to see what happens with the water agency. I would not necessarily recommend a 1-year contract because I don't think it gives enough time to really get things started. I think 2 to 3 years should be minimum, but those are my thoughts on that.
Other members' thoughts?
Question.
Well, see, Al is up first and then Doug.
Okay. I think it's critical that we get going. I feel like we're slowly getting to where we're supposed to be, and unless there was an alternative that was ready to start tomorrow, I don't think that we should delay. And like Amber said, we can do this, and if by the time that the contract has run its course, we'll know how it's going. If the county's water agency has gotten together and presents a possible advantage and to change horses at that time, we can certainly consider it. But at this point in time, this is the best way to get ourselves moving forward, because we can't afford to delay. Thank you.
Mr. Crane.
I was headed in the same direction through a question, which is with the county CEO leaving, with the seemingly increasing internal strife that the board is facing, it may well be better not to burden county staff with this, and have someone who does have experience that's external. Then after the county is stabilized, rebuilt a bit, then review it again at the end of this contract period.
I accept the logic. I just want you to understand anything. I don't think there's really a lot of internal strife where we are changing our CEO, but day to day, I think we're functioning just fine.
Well, I'm watching with interest
Sure,
and
everybody.
guarded hope the seeming disassembly of tax collection, auditing, and some related stuff that gives me pause.
Mhm. Well, we're hoping for better efficiencies by having one department on that, but that's another story and not on the
Yeah,
agenda.
and not a topic for today's discussion.
So I think the best way to settle this is take a vote.
If I may, through the chair, we also have Eric, excuse me, Eric, how do you pronounce your last name? I don't want to say it incorrectly.
Cataray. Thank you for asking.
Here from West Joe's, who would serve as the general manager. If any of the board members have any questions for him.
Glenn, I also have my hand up.
Yes, I do. I was just noticing you, Elizabeth. Sorry, I wasn't trying
That's
to
okay.
slight you.
It's hard
Go
when
ahead.
the shared screen is up to see everything. I will further Amber, Al, and Doug's comments. I agree with them, with one exception. I do have concern about conflict of interest when one of the GSA members would become the administrator. As Amber said, we've been doing it out of necessity, but we no longer are in that position. And it would be similar to saying the city of Ukiah or the flood control district or any of the other members to take over the administration. I think it's important to have an independent general manager or executive, whatever the title is, that reports to the GSA board that is not employed by any of the individual members or contracted with through them. And that's what I would recommend to my board as well.
Mhm. Well, that's certainly something that we could also run by legal counsel if and when we ever decided to have Mendocino County involved, because we are a joint powers authority. It may be best to have this independent, and that's something that we can find out for a future decision. Certainly, we've been running it through Mendocino County, kind of by necessity, but that's worth a question. Zach, you have your hand up.
I was just wondering, what are the resources and expertise that currently exist in-house with Mendocino County and the Water Agency? Maybe Amber or Glenn could provide just a brief rundown.
They're pretty limited. So mostly what I would say is that we have good administrative responsibilities. We have good legal in-house advice, and so that's something that is a plus. But we don't really have a water person per se. So Amber, you want to add to that? Howard is pretty good and is sort of a nuts and bolts sort of person about delivering water and engineering issues, but that's about it.
I would agree. I do think we have administrative, expertise, but as far as water expertise or any sort of technical expertise related to what the GSA is doing, it's almost none.
Mm-hmm. So, since we have Eric here, Eric, you want to give us a quick hard pitch for why we need you?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'm also joined on this call by Samantha Adams, who's also with the West Coast team. And she's also here to support any questions that might come up and to provide more answers and details. So I am part of the West Coast team. We have experience working with Russian River, Santa Rosa Plain, Chino Basin Water Master down south in Southern California, and also the Borrego Springs Water Master. We have a really diverse team of technical expertise, but also administration expertise to help with all the administrative pieces that might come up as part of looking at water in your basin. How do we get forward with our GSP process, and how do we move forward with that, and providing the support that you guys need to be successful in being in compliance with SGMA, but also working towards implementation of the GSP. And our big goal is really to work with you and to identify what are your objectives, what are your needs, and bring our resources to the table to help support you along your journey with Sigma and the GSP implementation.
So Eric, a question for you. As it goes to grant writing, are you in a position to give support to that? Or how are we going to handle that for additional grants?
Yes, absolutely. So I personally have some experience going after Prop 1 grant funding, which is one of the funding sources that will help support Sigma work and GSP plans being developed. We also have a really robust grant funding team that we can pull more people and resources in to help identify the best grants that are associated with the work that we would like to go after and how to support that work. And we have a good track record of bringing in a good amount of money and having success of getting those grants to support our clients.
Thank you. So board members, any questions for our potential consultants? Oh, Zach, you have your hand up.
Hey, Eric, Zach Robinson here. I'm curious, even though the Sigma is really just getting started, you've worked with other regions before. I expect in our coming year, especially if we have drought, we will be introduced to operating with triggers. I expect to get some triggers from our monitoring in the coming year. Do you guys have any experience working with that yet?
That is a great question. So when it comes to like hitting a minimum threshold, I think that's what you're referring to. Yeah, so when it comes to that, I don't personally have a clear indication of what the process would be when you have that occurrence and what the proper steps would be. That really is gonna, I think, would fall on to this board and our team to identify what the best step in the process to move forward and identifying how do we handle that situation.
Good enough for now.
Director Crane.
Question regarding the evaluation and the plan forward. What's the mechanism for the new kid on the block to learn from Walker and others what our journey's been so far? How do they get up to speed?
Well, we as the water agency would definitely spend the next few months transitioning the administration and what we know up to here. We do also have LWA on contract for another few months, so I'm sure they would be happy to do some of that as well. But a lot of it, now that we have the GSP developed, that's what we've been working on up to this point. So now we have this very thorough document to give them a starting point. And I think it's a really good transition point because now we're just starting the implementation. So we're not bringing somebody new in right in the middle of a process. And they could sort of start from the beginning of that implementation phase using the document that we have.
I hope that it's on their dance card to get the insights, fears, concerns, support points, etc., from the members of this body as part of their task, because that's information that they can better get directly than through a third party. And I think it's part of the toolkit that they would want to possess to be more effective or as effective as they can be.
Beth, do you have a question?
Yeah, Samantha and Eric, could you speak to what Director Crane was just referring about the transition and what your tentative plan is for transitioning into the role that is given to you?
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer that, and then Samantha can jump in after to provide any additional details. So our initial plan is to work with each one of you on the board to identify your needs and your objectives for the coming year and identifying the proper schedule to work towards achieving those objectives and coming up with a plan and listening to all the details and the concerns you might have with achieving some of those objectives and some of those concerns that might be relative to concerns within the basin itself or something that is related to the implementation process. And like Glenn pointed out, maybe that comes into play with the grant piece. So trying to understand, okay, how do we position ourselves for that if that is something we want to pursue? So that would be our first step that we would be working towards very quickly after the contract is awarded. And because we want to hit the ground running and want to be able to provide the support that you guys need to meet your objectives and to meet your goals as quickly and efficiently as possible. Samantha, is there anything else you would like to add?
I would just say that, transitioning this type of work is never straightforward or simple, but we have experience doing it. And, we're here to learn as much as we can, as quickly and efficiently as we can. And so, I think that our objectives are to get more familiar as we go through the process. And so we are open to phone calls and conversations with each of the agencies to make sure that we're bringing all those information together, as well as your technical consultants, and spending some time with the county so that we can understand the processes that work best for you. We're probably not going to get it perfect the first couple meetings, but part of our process is being really open to your feedback so that we can improve as we go.
Beth, do you have another question, or are you?
No, I do not. I will lower my hand.
No problem. So Eric and Samantha, who would be our actual contact at a meeting? Who would actually show up to? It would be you. Okay.
Yes, it would be me.
Excellent. Okay. Are there any questions from the public or comments? I would entertain a motion for the recommended action. Does anybody care to do that?
This is Zach. I'd like to move that we proceed with the recommended action.
Crane seconds.
Any further discussion before I call for the vote? Okay, it's been moved and recommended that that we direct staff to prepare an agreement with West Yost for administrative services for the Ukiah Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Let's have a call for the vote, please. Nicole?
Director McGorty,
Yes?
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Yes.
Director LaRue is absent, Director Navarez is absent, Director Robinson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Well, congratulations, I think, Eric and Samantha. We look forward to working with you. Your credentials are impressive, and you're a neighbor, so you kind of understand at least where we are. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much. We're very excited to work with all of you. We understand that the GSP process has been one that has been a very big lift for a lot of agencies. And so we're there to be with you and to help you along your journey. And we very much look forward to working with you all.
Well, thank you. And I'll just say that we're in a good place, I think, in part because of the wonderful consultants that we've had, Laura Folia and Amir Mani, who have helped put together our plan, and they're certainly have played a very major role in being where we are today. And I want to recognize them and appreciate all they've done for us. Okay. All right. Item 4B, adoption of regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2022. Okay, so we're looking to adopt a regular meeting schedule. So let's see, Nicole, what have we got on this?
I will introduce this. So we have prepared a proposed meeting schedule of board meetings and TAC meetings, consisting of essentially quarterly meetings, but 4 more board meetings this year and 4 more TAC meetings this year. And you have it in front of you for review and adoption, unless any of the board members have any concerns or comments or would like to make any changes to it.
Okay, board members, any comments? I'm going to say it's okay until I completely get through my schedule, but is there any concerns going to quarterly meetings? I think the bulk of the real heavy lifting of our task is done with the submission of our groundwater sustainability plan. So I don't think we need to meet as often as we have. Is that kind of your thinking too, Amber?
Yes, so the quarterly meetings is the minimum required by the JPA. So we think that'll be the minimum, but as we found last year, towards the end of last year with the GSP development, we sometimes needed to add special meetings, which is still always an option if we get to a point where we need to have a meeting for a specific reason.
Okay, any comments from the general? Oh, Al, your hand is up.
Yeah, isn't the next thing that happens this an update or something in April on our plan? Don't we have an obligation to turn in something in
Yes.
April?
So we have our first annual report due April 1st, which
Yeah.
Laura and Amir are working on. You'll hear from them today about it. And then they expect to be able to have a draft done by the March 10th meeting for the board to hear about at that meeting. And also the TAC the day before for any maybe last minute input that they need for that annual report.
Okay, that's good, because I think that meeting then is like a pretty important meeting. And it'll also be one that the new consultants, the new administrators basically would be handling as well. So I think that's good. The quarterlies after that are fine by me.
So the March meeting, the county will probably host that meeting one last time because we still need to actually approve the contract with West Jost. But we also hope to have sort of a mini workshop on that agenda that would follow the approval of the contract for West Jost to do sort of a kickoff with the board in terms of determining priorities and things like that.
Sounds good.
Other questions or comments? Any comments from the general public? Well, if there's no further comments, then I would entertain a motion for us to adopt a regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2022.
I move the recommended dates.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the calendar. Nicole, can you do a roll for us?
Director McGarty,
Yes.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Yes.
Director LaRue is absent, Director Navarez is absent, Director Robinson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4C, consideration of nominees and appointment of alternate agriculture stakeholder director. Okay, so Amber
I can
or Michael?
do full spiel on this one. So Devin Jones, who can't be at today's board meeting, recently informed me that Mr. Levi Paulin was planning to move outside of the county, and with that transition, he also relayed his resignation from the GSA agricultural alternate seat and the TAC committee. So attached to this board packet is his resignation letter. And as part of the JPA and JPA bylaws, appointing ag alternate seats done in the same manner as he would for like a ag stakeholder director. They have to meet certain criteria. Have to be a county resident, own at least property in an active commercial agricultural production overlying the basin, or be an employee for an operation like that, and be involved in water use, for like, extract groundwater for irrigation or frost control for at least 15 acres of crops in commercial operation. And so the Mendocino County Farm Bureau can submit up to 3 nominees. They've submitted 1 for the board's consideration. Adam Gaska. With Golden Vineyards, and his application form is attached to the board packet as well. And I can, he's here today, so he can speak a little more.
Adam, would you care to address the board?
Sure. I'm Adam Gaska, lifelong Mendocino County resident. Most of that's been living in Redwood Valley. I owned, operated Mendocino Meats, Mendocino Organics, and now work for Golden Vineyards, which has vineyards in Redwood Valley and Hopkins. And then Julie Golden, my boss, basically also administers the estate of her deceased parents, who have vineyards in the Talmadge Bench and on Tyndall Ranch Road and the south end of Ukiah.
And I know Adam also from the Redwood Valley Municipal Advisory Committee, and he's a very active member. And so I know that he has a strong interest in community affairs, just as to further provide background on him. So Adam, I'm glad you've thrown your hat in the ring. Now it's up to the board to decide if they would like to have you join. Is there any discussion from board members? Are there any comments from the general public? Beth.
Thanks, Glenn. Hi, Adam. I am under the impression that you're also applying to be appointed to the board of Redwood Valley County Water District, which is a member of IRWA. Yeah. So I just wonder if you thought about that, because IRWA is on the GSA, how that would work for you if you got both positions.
Yeah, I did apply, got interviewed, and I'll find out, I guess, next week if there was someone else that also had interest in filling the vacancy on Redwood Valley Water as well.
Beth, are you concerned there's a conflict of interest there?
Well, there's always the perception of conflict, which is really, one of the things we look at too, not just straight up conflict. But let's say Adam got appointed to both. I'm just trying to think this through. So Redwood Valley is a member of IRWA. Let's say he's the IRWA representative. Or even if he isn't, but so it's just interesting. I don't really know. I didn't know that.
I live in Redwood Valley, and
yeah,
our house we live in the suburbs off of Bell Arbor. We just have municipal water. We don't have a well or anything there. And then Golden Vineyards at Hard Arrow doesn't, it's on Laughlin Ridge, so it doesn't get Redwood Valley water. So in terms of being on the Redwood Valley Water District Board, I'm more kind of interested on the municipal aspect of it, not so much as the agricultural aspect. We don't have any agricultural interest in getting water through Redwood Valley Water District.
And Beth, I think, we also see situations where people could sit on the Russian River Flood Control District Board and be members of Farm Bureau, which often is involved in helping to appoint our agricultural director. So I don't think there's a problem. We can check it out with the legal counsel if you like.
Well, it's just a question, and I defer to the board members, obviously. Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments, Al?
Yeah, the only place I see it maybe creating an issue is finding the people who are willing to participate beyond just being a member is always a challenge. And I can imagine if Adam is a willing member, that he could end up being the representative on IRWA and become the IRWA representative to the GSA. So obviously he couldn't hold both positions. So it would just be a matter of picking one, you know. So I don't see a problem. I think we can handle it.
Yeah, I think that's correct. You can't serve in two positions. You only get one vote in this outfit, so we would have to make some sort of adjustment. But I like Adam's background, the fact that he also works with livestock. We don't typically have people who are involved in livestock operations interested in our sustainable groundwater agency, and they should be, because there's water quality issues that sometimes come up associated with that industry. So I think that that's a good thing. Amber.
We have sort of a similar situation in the JPA, in that RRFC, I believe, is part of IRWA. Is that correct, Beth?
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. So the way that it was set up when that was the case was that RRFC would abstain from any votes related to the GSA on that the IRWA board because they got a separate vote as a board, with a board seat. So they would have to abstain, so it wouldn't count as like a double vote on any matters that the GSA would be taking up. I could see that maybe some sort of similar arrangement would be appropriate.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look at that. We can have a conversation possibly with county council on this to see if they have any thoughts on people and JPAs and what might be an issue from Brown Act or whatever. But I think as long as we keep it one person, one vote, I think we're okay. All right, if there's no further discussion, then I think I'm ready to hear a motion to accept Adam Gaska's nomination to become the agricultural representative for our board. Does anyone?
I just want to clarify, it's for the alternate position.
Alternate, I'm sorry.
Not the board member.
Mm-hmm.
Nice try,
I'll
Glenn.
move, Crane.
Okay, so we have Zach saying moving the motion, and Director Crane seconding it.
Works for me.
Okay. Nicole, let's call for the vote.
Director McGorty,
Yes.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Aye.
Director LaRue is absent, Director Navarez is absent, Director Robinson.
Yes, and welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Yes, thank you, Adam, for moving your nomination forward, and we look forward to working with you. Item 4D is a presentation from Larry Walker Associates and possible action, including direction to Larry Walker Associates or other staff on the preparation of the first annual report on implementation of the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. Laura, probably?
I'm going to present.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Amir, I'm gonna let you share the screen if you have it ready.
Okay. Okay, can you see my presentation slide now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is Amir Mani from Larry Walker Associates, and hi everybody. As the item said, so we have a very quick presentation on the annual report and the GSP submittal, just to update the board on the status of things. So first off, we, as you all know, we submitted the GSP on January 28th. It was a coordinated effort between the County Water Agency, us, and the RCD. So thank you all. Thanks, Michael and Amber and Deborah. Really helped us push this through. The review is still in process, so DWR will check everything that we submitted to the Sigma portal. And when they find that it's complete, they're going to open the GSP for public review period. And everybody can again review and comment on the GSP on the Sigma portal. If they find that any item is missing, they're going to contact the GSA for missing documents to be uploaded. As well as the GSP, and as part of the submittal, we also migrated our monitoring network from CASGIM to the GSP monitoring network. That only includes all the wells that are within the basin boundary. So officially, there are no CASGIM monitoring going on from February this year in the basin, and they will all be included as the GSP monitoring. The last portion, and there are some missing parts still in our monitoring network because we just drilled the wells in December. Although DWR agreed to survey those wells and some of the wells that we instrumented for GPS coordinates and all that, since they were not done, we left them empty on the portal and we're going to update it, but those are very minor changes that we need to make to the monitoring network. So again, congratulations everyone, and thank you for all that you did in the past few years to get to this point to have the GSP submitted successfully. The next point is the annual report. As was just mentioned, so the annual reports are due every year on April 1st. So based on the schedule that Amber presented, so we're shooting to have a draft ready for the next board meeting in March, board and TAC meetings, to be reviewed. In the next couple of slides, I'm just going to go over what the annual report would include and what we need to get it to a complete status. We worked with Amber and Michael the past couple of months to not only produce this year's annual report, but set up a template that make it easy for next year's to repeat the same thing and try to decrease the burden of cost for annual reports that's repeated every year. So what we're doing is just setting up a structure that gets most of the annual report done every year without a lot of effort. Our annual report would include, so that the first section would be just general information, and these are based on the requirements that are included in the GSP emergency regulations. So there is like an article called annual report and 5-year updates, and under the annual report, these are the minimum requirements that DWR expects us to do every year. So the first section would include the general information, that is basic and executive summary, and very basic information about the basin, the map of the areas that it covers, the GSA, a very similar kind of but brief description like what we included in chapter 1 of the GSP. And also it will include details about the past water year. The requirements about what is called under the article about provide detailed description and graphical representation goes to 3 separate sections. One is groundwater elevations for each aquifer. Second one is groundwater extraction. And the third one is the change in groundwater storage. So since in the GSP, we, at least for the first 5 years, we defined the sustainable management criteria mostly based on groundwater elevations, that portion of the annual report would be very important. Monthly monitoring has been ongoing through NCRCD, and we're going to use that data along the CASGIM monitoring from last year to do the groundwater elevation part. What we're required to do is to generate contour maps of the elevations for high and low season, basically spring and fall, and then produce hydrographs of the wells, including the monitoring network. For the groundwater extractions, we need to provide a similar information that we included for our model and in the water budget section of the GSP, basically water use by sector, so the municipal use, agricultural use, and domestic use, and also the accuracy of our estimation. If it's measured, if it's estimated, and if it's estimated, how accurate are we in estimating that? And the third part is change in groundwater storage. In the GSP, we use our model to show annual change in groundwater storage and cumulative change, if you remember. Since it would be a huge effort to update the model every year with the new data, we will do an estimation based on the groundwater elevations and come up with annual change in storage based on the change in groundwater levels at wells. And whenever we have an updated model for a year, we can switch to model estimates for the groundwater storage change. And the last part is basically a progress towards implementation that includes the status of PMAs, any projects and management actions that are planned or started. So we're going to provide a narrative about that, and also a comparison to show the status of achieving the inner milestones that we set for the plan. So I just wanted to show it in terms of sections. It's basically the same information I just went through. So there will be an executive summary, then we go to section 1, which is narrative information. Section 2 would be the 3 main parts that we need to report on, and section 3 would be progress towards implementing plan. We suggest adding a section 4 that would not be necessary every year, but if any amendments is done for the GSP based on anything that happens in the future, I think this section would help us explain that amendment and basically submit it to the DWR. In order to have the annual report completed by March, we do need some data from the members of the agencies and members of the public that we're hoping to receive. We are going to send a data request to everyone that has those data after this call. But the main part that we're requesting is the similar water use data that we requested for the model. Basically, we need that from the city, from all the urban member agencies, all the water suppliers, RRFC. So we have to provide detailed water use estimates for the year, for municipal use, for agricultural use, and for domestic use. For the agricultural use, we're planning to use the same model that we used for the GSP, the IDC. We're going to update that for the water year 2021, and we will provide the estimates. The only thing that we're asking in there is that if the Farm Bureau or agricultural representative know of major operational changes that would affect our estimations for agricultural use, please let us know. So we can consider that in our estimations, or at least provide a narrative description of that change in the annual report to help with understanding the changes in the annual report. The other two, I'm not expecting them to be relevant for this year, but basically if there is any water quality data from the wells that we included in the plan that have not been submitted to the public databases, and you want us to include it in the annual report, please send that to us. We plan to just grab the publicly available data as was included in the GSP and use that in our annual reports. And any changes in operations or management that are major enough that might impact the water resources in the basin, it would be good to know, and it would be good to include in the annual report, mainly because we had a tough year last year, and there were some changes that happened in the basin that might be relevant in including that in the annual report. And that's it. The only thing is we're going to send emails. Hopefully we get the water use data from you, or you can point us to, if they are publicly available, you can point us to the link, and we're going to download it. And hopefully we will be back with the annual report in March and go through the numbers with you.
Thank you, Amir. Are there any questions for Amir?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Tom Doherty with NIMS. I was just wondering, and I think we might have put this in our letter, and maybe Amir is planning to put it in. Will the monitoring include any detection of potential impacts to surface flow in any of the monitoring streams?
Just to clarify, by detection of changes to stream flow, you mean like the depletion of surface flow due to groundwater, or is it just showing the surface flow decrease in the
Yeah, any decrease in surface stream flow that might have occurred from groundwater pumping.
Right. So in terms of the gauges, there is no requirements in annual report to actually include information about the gauges. We can do that as just an additional requirement. But in terms of depletion of surface waters, that's the sustainability indicator in the plan. There is a section that we will just provide our monitoring. So in the plan for the first 5 years, if you remember, we plan to use groundwater elevations as proxy until we get more data and information so we can move the volume of depletion and estimate that. So that's how we're going to measure the impact on the stream flow depletion, basically by groundwater elevation. So we're going to provide that in the annual report. But what you're seeking in terms of volume of depletion and actual impact of pumping on the stream flow amount, that's something that we need to calculate from Transx that we just installed and an update to the model. I'm thinking it would be in the next few years, and will officially show up in the first 5-year review of the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other questions?
Amir, would those same analyses you just described also show the supplement to surface water that groundwater outflows are providing?
Yes. So if we have a Transx or the model or both, hopefully, they will show both ways. So if it's contributing as a positive, as a stream recharge, it would be shown. And if it's the other way around, it would be shown too. And we're thinking as we got the preliminary result from the model, it is seasonal. So it's most of the year groundwater is putting water into the stream, and in the summer and in the dry period is the reverse. So that was the general pattern that we saw.
Yeah, so the State Water Resources Control Board needs to know that. So, other questions or comments?
Sorry, this is Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm driving and that's why the noise. Glenn, I just wanted to add something to what you just said. We understand that there might be changes in how the system may have to work in the future. It's happening in other parts of the state. It might be good that we keep in mind that, and we tell the Stakeholder board that we have a tool that can be used to understand changes and understand impacts. So I just want to point out that it's not perfect now, and we know that, but we have something that definitely can be used. So I'm going in the same direction up in Siskiyou County, where probably the situation is even worse right now, and we are really using the model to run scenarios. And I hope the effort that we did in the past 4 years is going to be helpful for you guys. So I'm just we are aware of what's going on, and I hope we can take advantage of these tools.
Well, thank you for that, Laura. So we look forward to working with you on that in the future.
Hey, Glenn, I just want to make sure, this is Tom Doherty again with NIMS, that I understood what she was saying. She's saying that maybe the modeling might help to answer some of those questions, or am I off on that?
Laura?
Yes.
Okay. And a quick question on, I think Amir was talking about the transects. Will some of those be in areas that have just natural stream flow, not associated with flows from Lake Mendocino?
Yes. So in the northern Redwood Valley part, we do have a transect that crosses right in the Redwood Valley, and we have one stream gauge that we installed on Forsyth Creek, and we installed the second one on the northern part of the Russian River, basically when it enters the basin. And we do have monitoring wells around those 2 gauges. So that transect is completely natural flow.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Well, if there are no further questions or comments, I would entertain a motion for the recommended action.
Could you remind me what the recommended action was?
Sure, it's receive presentation and possibly give direction to LWA or staff on the preparation of the first annual report on implementation of groundwater sustainability plan.
Okay, I will move that.
Okay, is there a second?
Well, how do you move? Did we recommend any action or any study? We received a report, so we can accept the report.
Yeah.
But what
that
about
would be-
direction? We haven't addressed that, have we?
So what this is that this is the preparation of the first annual report on implementation. So you know, the recommended action would be to receive and submit the report.
Nicole, do we need a vote on this? We may not.
You don't need a vote to receive a presentation. Only if you're providing direction, do we actually need a motion for this.
And I don't know that we've come up with any direction.
I think the direction is please finish the report and get it to us in time so that we can review it before it's submitted in our next meeting in March.
So moved.
Okay.
So just to be clear, that was Director Robinson and Director Crane providing direction to complete the report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Director McGorty,
Yes.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Aye.
Director LaRue is absent, Director Navarez is absent, Director Robinson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. So next on the agenda is director reports. Do we have anything to report from our directors? Does anyone care to share with us something going on with your organization? Elizabeth, you usually have something to say.
I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Except that I see Zach laughing. So just check by your name there, Zach.
Note to self, disable video.
Okay. Anyone else care to enter anything into the record that may be of interest to this group? I'm just going to talk real briefly a little bit about the Potter Valley project because it's kind of every time that I think things are going one direction, it changes direction. So essentially, what's happened is that the two basin solution group, the ad hoc committee put together by Congressman Huffman, has not been able to put together a plan to finance the studies necessary for us to apply for the license for the project. So essentially, we won't be able to meet the deadline in April with a plan to show how we'll pay for all the research that would be necessary for us to undertake the license and actually submit an application for license. So I'm not sure where we are at the moment. As probably some of you are aware, we've been relying on bypass flow from the PG&E facility, which presently is not operating due to a blown transformer. So our bypass flow is about 45 cubic feet per second. We had hoped to have, up to maybe 130 cubic feet per second. And we requested it from PG&E, but they sort of pulled the partners in the two basin solution, and both Humboldt County and Caltrout don't support increasing the flow rate. So that is unfortunate. There will be a meeting of the ad hoc committee on Friday, and I'm going to directly ask Humboldt County why they don't want to help their neighbors. I'm really curious to find out because this is a public health drought emergency, and maybe we'll get an answer. Meanwhile, PG&E announced that okay, they're going to not, but they've already said they're not looking to be relicensed, but they still will operate the plant while the fate of all of their facilities is decided, which could take years. So they're going to, in the meanwhile, replace the equipment that's broken, and they'll start to generate power again from the Potter Valley project, and also have the normal transfer of water from the Old River Basin to Lake Mendocino. How long that takes, we don't know. The time frame is anywhere from 1 to 2 years, but you know, in the short term, it'll restore some of the flows that we're concerned about. You know, decommissioning a project of that size could take decades, so the future is totally up in the air, and it's one of the strangest things I've ever worked on in my life, and trying to figure out what's going to happen next. But there's a lot riding on the outcome of what becomes of that water. Obviously, those of us here in the upper Russian River Basin are not so concerned about power generation, but we're very, very concerned about the water that comes through the project that we've built all of our infrastructure around from here down to Marin County. So all I can say is stay tuned. I also want to recognize Supervisor Mulheron, who's joined us, who is also, you know, a kind of my second. In the event that I'm not here, she would be conducting the meeting. So Mo, welcome, and I hope this makes sense to you, because everything we do seems to be complicated. And if anybody else has any public comments, this would be a good time for public comments on items not on the agenda. Okay, well, if no one has any further comments, I think we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. And oh, I did want to ask one question of Amira and Laura, and that's on our application for the grant that we did under the Urban Multi-Benefit Water Grants. Can you,
Yep.
where are we, what's happened, and where are we in the process?
I think we're waiting, Glenn.
Yeah, I was gonna say Amber may have a better information on that.
Yes, I submitted it, and I think it was about a week before the deadline that it was submitted, and the last communication I received was that our application was received. So I haven't heard anything since that time.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I checked the website. Sorry, Laura.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking that probably it's gonna take another couple of weeks to know something. I mean, they've been so very quickly recently, so let's see.
Yeah, well, here's
see what happens.
Yeah, let's keeping our fingers crossed that will come to fruition. So thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you all.